Okay, so we're going to get this started. And I think my advertisement for this was um, who wants to become a private lender? And it's really, as I sent it out, I made a mistake. It should be who wants to find private money, because that's exactly what this is finding private money. And of course, I made the deal, or I tried to make a deal or a bet with anybody that wanted to take me up on it. And unfortunately, I only had Jackie make a guess at where this money is. And when I get down to the end and I tell you where the money is, you'll see how close she is. But this story is really about a friend of mine and a lender from when I was a young real estate investor. His name was John Brockwell. And if you're from Broward County, you may have heard of John Brockwell. John Brockwell did not have a mortgage license, which I found very unusual because he was so buttoned down, but he didn't have a mortgage broker's license. But he had people that loaned money to his investors. So his pitch was he would go to the BREIA meeting, the Broward Real Estate Investor Association meeting, which I don't believe is there anymore, and talk to investors about loaning them money to buy property. Now, he wouldn't loan money to buy foreclosures, but he would loan money, and I would use him as an end lender. Like I use a foreclosure lender and I'd have to pay him off so I could use them again later, but I'd bring John's money in to fill in until I sold the property. So it's a little expensive, but listen, John made some money. He had individual investors that just had money, and he went ahead and said, I'll put this money to work for you. And it made the people happy. And I guess back in the day, he was getting his lenders 11, 12%. He would charge 1.5, 2 points, something like that. If you're a new investor or it was a little more of a risky investment, he would charge 3, but that's okay. So what you're going to learn today is to find a source of money where nobody is tapping, nobody is hitting this money. It's quiet, it's on the sidelines. And as we get closer, I'll build up to what it is. But these guys right now are working for 5%. These guys invest their money and they're happy with 5%, which is what you can get that from a CD nowadays. All right. So we're going to talk about what kind of traits are in these lenders, if I can figure. Okay. So here we go. On offensive lineman, the characteristics of an offensive lineman. I don't know if you know football or not, but they're over 300 pounds, quick feet, long reach, intelligent, over 6'4", sufficient experience. Where might we look for such gentlemen? Well, the NFL looks for them in college. That's where they try to find them. And they go to the big schools for the big conferences to see where there's some guys that succeeded in tough conferences where they know how to play. So we have to look for lenders where they hang out. We have to look for lenders where they are. Okay, so traits or characteristics of private lenders.
Hey,
They have
Rich,
sufficient
sorry to interrupt you. Are you sharing something on your screen? Because
yeah.
all we see is the pros and cons of short sale alternatives.
Oh, Jesus. You know what? I'm glad you said something because here I am. I'm flying around on this. Let me see. Share my screen. Let's see. What screen am I looking at now? Entire screen. Can you see it now?
No, it's still the pros and cons of short. Oh, there we go.
Yay. You got it?
Yep.
Jackie, thank you for speaking up. I'll go back and show you my graphic on the last one only because I thought it was fun. Let's see. Back is that way. Oh, nope. Sorry. Back. There he is. Okay. He's my 300-pound lineman, but the NFL looks for him in college, and that's where they find him. So you have to find these guys where they hang out. So one of the traits or characteristics of private lenders is that they have sufficient cash to live. So they don't have to worry about paying their bills. And that's another characteristic of an investor. Investors, you can't invest with a quiet mind unless you have cash to live. So you have to have a cash flow coming from somewhere. Hopefully you're making enough money on your deals and it's coming and going. It's an ebb and flow. I realize that. But private lenders have sufficient cash to live. They don't need to use their money to pay their bills. They invest their money to make money off of it. Okay, here we go. Traits of private lenders or characteristics. They're usually, now this is my own experience, that they're very conservative and they're risk averse, which is why some of them are happy with 5%. Now, if they're happy with 5%, How do you think they'd feel about 10% or 11%? I think they'd feel twice as good, wouldn't they? Just the math tells you they'd feel twice as good. So 10 or 11% is what they should be getting for their money on the street. But they're very conservative, they're risk averse, and they're going to need somebody like us, I'm including myself, to contact them and let them know that there's other places to put your money than where you're putting it right now. Now, when I put my bet out for $100, Jackie was the only one to take a guess, and the guess was good. Her guess was that we need to approach, I think it was IRA investors who are putting their money in mortgages. Is that right, Jackie? Is that the right, what your guess was?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So that's a nice little niche. And I love the answer because the IRA guys, they're usually a little bit afraid, but they've got the IRA to protect them because the IRA, there's all kind of paperwork. There's all kind of things. There's people that looking at it. So they feel okay with what they're doing. And one of my biggest investors back in the day, Bill Fleischer, he had an IRA that he loaned everything through. And this guy was as buttoned down as the day is long, but he made money through his IRA and it gave him the tax advantage. And that's great. So those people are great if you can find them. Now, can you find them? Yeah, you can go to an IRA guy that sells IRAs and maybe he can let you do a little presentation to them or something like that. So they're a protected group, but you could still find them even through the public records like Jackie suggested. So again, we're going to find our guys where they hang out, but our guys right now are happy with 5%. They're not loaning money on mortgages yet. And that's a two-edged sword. And if you see some of my training on private lenders, you can look all over YouTube. It's all over there. You don't necessarily want to be the first guy to break a hard money lender in. In other words, you prefer him have some experience in lending, because this goes back to my Jonathan White story. Jonathan White was my first private lender. And that's a long story. I'm not going to tell it here, but he called me every day. He called me every day because when am I getting paid off? Is the house getting any showings? You know, he was a nervous Nelly. And the more nervous he got, the more nervous I got. So I'm sure he's passed away now, but it's hard to break a lender in. And when it's time to break a lender in, let me know. I'd love to talk to you and share some more horror stories, but they're going to bug you. But anyways, let's talk more about the traits. These guys, these lenders that we're going to be looking to talk to, they're searching for a high return with limited risk. Now, as everybody knows, the more risk you take, the higher return you should get. But these investors that I'm specifically targeting are getting 5%. They're happy with it. There's very, very low risk, but they're happy with the 5%. So we're going to try to convince them that they can make more money if they loaned to real estate investors, be it you or be it you, somebody that you want to go ahead and cultivate as a lender. So you can be a private lender and you don't use your own money, use these guys' money, or you can cultivate these lenders to loan you money. And it's not that difficult of a jump. And once I get there, you'll see what I mean. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay, other characteristics of private lenders. They currently invest in safe financial instruments. Now, I'm going to give you a clue as to what this body of investors, where they are, and they're all in the same place, and they currently invest in safe financial instruments. But you've got to be able to research them. So you can't research the banks and see where their CD buyers are. They're not going to tell you. There's nothing in the public records about that. Okay, so let's go to the next person. The next characteristic, they like government bonds and security. Why? Because of the word government. The government is going to secure their money, so they're not afraid of nothing. Money market funds. It's true. They'll go to money markets, and they'll earn 5, maybe 6%. I'm not a money market guy, so I could be way off on the interest rate, but that's a safe investment. Low growth, high safety stocks. If you call your stockbroker, they're going to ask you how old you are and what your financial plan is. And if you're an old man, then they're not going to put you any risk in any risky stocks. Why is that? Because you're probably more conservative than a younger guy. But we can talk about that another day when we start picking on the young people. Let's see. Let me get this guy in. Okay, the last one is, can we publicly search for these investors? This is key to the topic because you have to be able to publicly search for them. Like Jackie found in the public records, you can find an IRA guy, and there's plenty of them in there. and you don't have to break them in. So that's a very, very good source of funds. You just got to learn to talk the IRA language. What's good about it is when the IRA guy loans money on real property, he records a mortgage. And when he records his mortgage, you find out who all the parties are in his IRA system. And you find out what his terms are. And you find out, well, you don't find his interest rates, but you find out what his terms are. And what I like to do is take that mortgage, reverse engineer it, and see how much money down he required. You know what I mean? Hi there, Corey. You can find out how much money down they required, whether it's 20%, 30%. And there's something I'm going to talk about here real quick, is that when you borrow from private lenders, your first deal is not going to be your best. In other words, you're not going to get the best terms available from this lender on the first deal. Once you do 2 or 3 and you prove yourself, everything will go swimmingly from there. And then it'll be one of those things where once you find a lender, you want to keep his money working because you don't ever want him to go away. Well, if you do 2 or 3 deals and pay somebody off and you maybe roll their money over 3 or 4 times a year and they get 2 points every time you roll it over, now they're making an amazing return. They're not going to want to see you go away. So you can flip the script on who loves who more. You know what I mean? Okay, so can we publicly search for these investors? We can. And that's the whole reason this thing is important, because nobody's touching them. I guarantee you nobody's touching them. Okay, traits or characteristics of private lenders. Recently originated mortgage, just like Jackie did. She found IRA lenders. You can find other lenders as well. You can find probably 100 lenders a month that record mortgages that are private guys. You look them in the public records. But here it is. This is if somebody would have guessed tax certificate investors, they would have won my $100. And this is not the first time I made this presentation. I've done it before. So I guess maybe you guys are all new to it. Anyways, tax certificate investors. Those are the guys that buy tax certificates. And the guys that buy tax certificates, they want safety. They want safety. They're willing to accept 5% because, as you know, the minimum that a tax certificate will pay in the state of Florida is 5%. It doesn't matter if you bid 2, 2.5, 3, 1, 0.5%. If you win the bid of a tax certificate at 0.5%, you're going to get 5 because that's the minimum. However, if you bid 0 on your tax certificate, in other words, you're going to pay somebody else's tax bill and not inspect any return, that's what you're going to get is nothing. So I don't know anybody that wants to do that. But these tax certificate investors, the information about them is available through every county. You just have to call up, find out where the report is, and you can learn all the tax certificates that are out. You can find out who the investor is. You can find out their address. And I don't know whatever other registration information is available through the county, but that's the trick. Nobody is marketing to tax certificate investors. Now, are you going to bat 100%? No, you're not. Or 1,000, you're not going to bat 1,000 with these guys because they're investing in tax certificates for a reason. The reason is the safety. They're happy with 5%. Now, what you have to do is you have to gradually bring them along to where they'll accept. They're going to be baited by the higher interest rate. If you tell them I can do something with 10, they'll begrudgingly ask more questions, but they're not going to jump in both feet because they're going to be scared. So you're going to have to do some convincing. And the best thing to do some convincing with is a track record. If you've got a track record of positive investments where you bought and sold properties and you can show them a timeline and you can make them understand how they can double their return that they're currently getting, plus a couple of points, I think you're going to win, I don't know, a third of the time. And I think that's a great place to start. So a third of the time, you'll be able to win over somebody you're going to bring them over to the other side and let them to start earning 10 and a couple of points. And if you turn their money over, like I said early in the show, if you turn their money over a couple times a year, which shouldn't be too difficult to do, turn it over 3 times. That means that they charge it 2 points every time. They're getting an additional 6 points on their money, plus their 10% or whatever interest rate. So they're going to be getting a high return. So it's something that's very important to that investor. So I think this might be the last slide, but tax certificate investors, that's it. And if you have any questions about how to contact them, I'll be happy to talk to you about it now. We can talk to it privately. If anybody has any questions now, let me know what they think about my idea about contacting tax certificate investors. Anybody.
How do you find them?
Sorry?
How do you find them?
The best way to find them is with the tax collector's office in your county, because all the tax certificates that are sold are public information. So you just got to contact, and as I'm learning, every county is not the same as Broward. Broward has a lot of information that other counties don't, but it is public record. So you have to be able to access it. The certificate owners is public knowledge. And I know that you or Ray are going to be the first ones to turn this thing upside down, but you can find them through the public records, and don't be afraid to make a phone call to them. Hey, Mr. Smith, my name is Rich. I'm a local real estate investor. I noticed that you have a tax certificate that's out. It's been out for a year. And it says how much he's earning. He's getting 5% is what he's getting. So I know you're getting 5%. If I could show you a similar real estate investment with just a little more risk, but you can double your return and maybe earn a couple of points along the way, would that be something you might be interested in? It's a simple pitch. And I'm laying out the highlights, a little bit higher return, a little bit more points. And then when we go to coffee together, we can talk about it a little more. And I like to use, I'll roll your money over 3 times a year. I like to close with that, because that's going to get them very excited. That's where they live. Any investor that invests in tax certificate, they are a cash guy. They don't want to own property. They're a cash return guy. And the more you can get to them with their returns and promising a good return, you need to go ahead and give it a try. That's going to be my close. So let's see. I have one more slide. I think it's a baby saying goodbye. Yeah, there's another baby. Bye-bye. I always like the kids. Go ahead. Somebody has a question?
Yes. What if you don't have a track record?
What if you don't have a track record? Millie, that is such a good question. If you don't have a track record, team up with somebody that does.
Okay.
So what I would say is our whole group is in love with Ivanhoe. He's not here today, so I can say that. They're all in love with Ivanhoe. He's a very successful investor. So if he was your partner and he agreed to say, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll meet with this investor with you, and here's a list of the properties I bought and sold. Okay, he's going to overwhelm somebody. It's probably like drinking from a fire hydrant. Then you're going to stand a better chance than if you went by yourself with a limited track record. Now, there are guys that will take a chance on a new guy or a new gal. There are guys that'll do that, but it's going to cost you. You're going to have something like 50% down. And nobody wants to invest 50% of their own money, because you got to use it for other deals and for your rehab and stuff like that. But it's going to be for 50% down. It's going to be a high interest rate. And this guy's going to call you every 15 minutes. So you need to have a track record or a partner that has some credibility. And Ivanhoe, I can't think of anybody else that has a lot more credibility than him.
How would you structure this in utilizing it for other people's deals? So you're using their money to lend for other people.
Oh yeah. I call that the John Brockwell idea. And I think that's a brilliant idea what John came in with. I wish I could say that I came up with it myself, but I didn't. But the way you structure it is you would go meet with these lenders. And let's say I'm going to meet with you, Jackie, you're a lender. I say, Jackie, I see that you're a tax certificate investor. You're happy earning your 5% or 6% or whatever you're getting, and you never know when you're going to get paid off. Although it is very safe because it's based on the tax bill. It's based on the county guaranteeing your money. What I propose to do is I have a big list of investors that are looking for money. So what you and I would come to an agreement about is I would be able to get you 10 or 11% on your money. I would not be the borrower, although I would completely vet the borrower based on whatever your qualifications might be. How long in the business, what the loan to value is going to be, how valuable is the property, how long has the investor been in the business, how many deals have they done, stuff like that. I'll do the vetting for you. And then we'll put your loan on their property. The buyer will sign a mortgage. They'll record the mortgage. You will collect the payments all yourself. I'll be completely out of it unless and until the buyer defaults. Then I'll come in and make you whole. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. But you cannot expect an investor that's coming from tax certificates to want to take on the risk of a foreclosure. Now, God forbid you have one or two in your early days. That's going to scare you, because then you got to scramble for money to pay it off. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this. But it's not going to happen that way. It's not going to happen that way. As long as your properties are valued properly, which is something every one of you guys needs to learn how to do. If you don't know how to value property, and you need to learn how to do it. And I'm not going to talk about that today, but anyways, that's the way I would present it to the investor. You let them know that you're not going to be the borrower. You're not going to be a co-signer, but you are on a side agreement going to guarantee that loan if they fail to make their payments. What John used to do, if somebody stopped making their payments because he confided in me and said, I don't have enough money to pay it off, that he would make the payments. He would make the payments to the lender. So the lender doesn't feel anything, but he would make the payments until he had a chance to find some money to pay it off. But that presentation is something that's pretty powerful, because believe it or not, when you're making a presentation like that and you're not borrowing the money, your presentation is stronger to the investor if you're not the borrower. It seems almost counterintuitive to me, but that's the way it's going to be received, because you're not asking for the money. You're asking to put their money to work with somebody else, and you're going to vet them and go through all the stuff and all the documents. But it comes across more powerful if you're not asking for the money yourself. So a couple of things you have to do. One of the most important things you have to do is you're going to have to find a lawyer that you could trust and that will pick up the phone when you call. Because a typical deal is going to be, okay, Jackie, you're John Brockwell. I call John. John, I have a property. I need to refinance. I bought it at the foreclosure sale. I got to get my foreclosure lender off, so I'm going to use you. Do you have anybody that can come up with 150,000? Let me know when you're ready. And John would shop his lenders. Anybody have 150,000 they want to put on this property? I vetted this investor. I've done 15 different deals with them. And he'll find somebody. And then that person will put the money up with the lawyer. John will have the package all put together with the lawyer. And then John will come to my office, bring the closing documents, pick up my check, and then he would take it back to the lawyer. The lawyer would do all the work. The lender would get their note. The mortgage would be recorded, and John would get his point or 2 points. So that's the way the typical deal would go. Now, the 2 points, it can only be earned by one person. The lender and John could not collect 2 points. So there were times where John's lenders were content earning 10% or 11%, and they didn't need the points. They just want the interest rate, because remember, they're used to getting 5%, or they're used to getting something less than what John was loaning their money out for. So I could always tell when the investor wanted a point or two, because John would have to charge me 3, because he'd have to make a little something. So I completely understood it. So it's just part of the game. It's a cost of doing business. So not everybody can make the points. If you want to tell the lender he's going to make them, try to get him down to 1, and you tell him I'll roll your money over 3 times a year. You make 3 plus whatever your interest rate is, and they're going to be real happy. So does anybody have any questions? Now, I don't know if y'all started to recognize this, but I'm requiring registration for all these webinars now. So I'm only sending a copy of this webinar to the people that attended it. So you have to be here in order to get a copy. I will post it on YouTube probably in another 2 months, but whether you look at it then or not, I don't know, but I'm going to send you a copy, within the first week if you attended the meeting. And Ray, maybe you can help me figure out how to get the names off of Zoom. I know they're in there somewhere. last week I had to individually type them, so I'm not doing that again. So Ray or somebody that knows what they're doing, you can help me with this. Okay, so anybody have any questions? I'm a little bit over, but that's because I had the wrong link out there.
I do have another question. If there's a hard money loan involved that doesn't allow a second position, so you can't record the lender as a second lien, I know that the workaround has been to add them to the LLC, but is that something that, like, number one, I don't know if that's how you would go about it, and number two, would these investors even be open to something like that?
Okay, the guys I'm talking about, these are all first mortgages.
Okay.
So they're not going to be behind anybody. They're not going to be a rehab loan because, and as you know, I like to buy first mortgages, but I don't like to buy seconds. And some people say that's because I'm a control freak, but the fact is, I don't want to be behind somebody that I have no control over what they're going to do. And that's a first mortgagee. So this is not a rehab loan. I know there's some guys in the group, Corey specifically. I think he does that sort of lending. And if you have a question about how to manufacture or how to put that together, I think Corey would be a better guy to answer the question than me. Okay,
cool.
And Corey's on here. He's in the group. I know he heard the question, and I'm sure he'll contact you. So anybody else have any questions? So far today, it's the Jackie and Rich show. Okay, so we've got somebody in the chat. Let me see what it says. Okay, I got to put my screen. Oh, you're not going to see me anyways. Okay. Okay. In those situations, you could lien another property too if the lender being added is not an option. Yeah, that's a scary part about some of the mortgages that these hard money lenders give is they tie everything up. I know one when you first read that. Thank you, by the way, for that, Jose or Jordan. When you read some of those hard money loan guys, their terms, and they get a lien on every property that you own when you sign a mortgage for one. That's a collateral assignment. That's a tough pill to swallow. But yes, that's one of the ways. And thank you for bringing that up. And Jackie, I think Jose's Jordan. I'm sorry, Jose. I know Jose Ramirez. Jordan's contact information is in here. So if you want to get together and talk, that might be something interesting. By the way, he lists himself as a connector. So Jackie, I think that's, oh, you're a connector too. Look at that. I thought you were just a JV guy. Okay. All right. So anybody else with any questions? Thanks for the help there, Jordan. Anybody else? If not, I got another webinar coming up at 11. Oh, there's one in the chat. Hold on. In those situations, oh, another one. Is it legal to solicit loans? Is it legal to solicit to borrow from people? Yeah, it is. Like I said at the beginning, John Brockwell didn't have a mortgage license, which I probably would not endorse all that much unless you're borrowing for yourself. Because if you're borrowing to loan it out to somebody else, you probably should look into being licensed. And that's an easy course. It's 2 days. I had my license once, but that was before my first divorce. I gave it all up. But it is legal to solicit it for yourself from somebody else. But if you're trying to loan it out to somebody else, I think it might be a good idea to have a license, and it's not that hard to get. Okay, so Jordan Ramirez raised his hand. I don't know how to deal with that, Jordan. So if you just want to start talking, I'll listen.
Oh, my apologies. I actually didn't even know that I raised my hand, but I did kind of want to talk about it a little. Jackie, nice to meet you. I'll shoot you a text after this. Richard, Ray, Jackie, appreciate you guys for putting this all together. I saw the comment. Let me double check. So is it legal to solicit loans? So a big thing about being connectors and kind of working that strategy, and I'm sure Jackie and Ray are super familiar with that too, is that you can't just introduce two people and kind of do like a handshake kind of handoff. Like, in football, you just pass the ball on and that's it. Like, you have to be involved as a partner throughout the entire transaction. So we're actually working on a deal right now, but like basically, for example, like if Jackie is the lender and Ray is the borrower and I'm coming in and being a connector, I can't just say, hey, Jackie, here's Ray, she's going to loan on your deal, give me a fee and good luck. Like, that's illegal. That's where kind of you get into the loan brokering realm, and that's where you can get into trouble. So to kind of combat that, being involved as an active party throughout the entire transaction would, I don't want to say eliminate, but that would help you get around that. So like being involved in terms of like helping Ray, give monthly updates to Jackie on how the progress is going, hosting Zoom calls to show, hey, this is the progress, here's what's going on, facilitating communication, basically managing that relationship and, facilitating any remedies or anything like that if something like that pops up. That's just my 2 cents I had with that, because I know that was a big question that I had, that I kind of had to stop doing the whole connecting stuff for like 2 months. So that's the answer that I found.
Jordan, I appreciate the answer. Thanks very much, babe. And just because I always need to know why. Can you cite a statute, or can you send me a copy of the statute, the number that lets me know that that's the way the rules are? And I know it might not, it's going to be in the Florida statute someplace, especially if you're talking about a loan broker. So if you could dig that up, I would appreciate it, because I'd love to read that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, can I jump in here?
Go ahead, Corey.
Okay, so I've talked to different lawyers about this because I've come across this over the last year or so. And what I've found is actually the opposite, where if you just do a pass off and just say connect two people and just stay out of it, that's actually the legal part. And when you get involved and actually you broker the deal, that's when you are acting as a broker and you need a license.
Okay, good.
So
So
if
we have two
Yeah.
completely opposite takes on this thing.
Right.
And the one thing that'll settle it is the law. So I'd love to read it, and I'd love to hear both of your insights, because it sounds like you both have your heads on correctly and you're both doing business every day.
Yeah, and actually, I have a meeting here in about an hour to go actually talk to a lawyer, and so hopefully I can talk to him and ask him about the specific statute. But I know it's like lending and also brokering. As soon as you start doing those activities, then if you ever get litigated, which is obviously unlikely, they look at your activities and then they put you in a category of what your activities show you're doing. I think what the guy was getting to is, recently we had a big discussion about connecting, and it's more around the ethical part, that it's not as ethical to take a fee and then just kind of leave it and just hope for the best. So that's where I know in the kind of the PACE community, he was really pushing hard for connectors to actually stay with it and be accountable for what they're doing.
Now,
as
Corey,
opposed to-
what about if you're guaranteeing the loan? Like I said, like John Brockwell did, if the payments didn't come in from the investor, he was either making the payments or making the loan, paying it off.
Yeah.
You're involved in there somehow with some type of agreement.
Yeah, and so I mean, that to me, that's a very ethical thing to do, and you keep your credibility. And so when you don't do things like that, you lose a lot of credibility, and you basically burn your bridges with people and investors.
Okay. All right. So John, like I said, John never had a license. And Jordan, if you're from the South Florida, I don't know if you ever heard of John. I think he's passed away a couple of years ago and ended up with leukemia, but he never had a license. And I always questioned, how do you do this without a license? And he just smiled and took his check. So listen, I don't know, but it's always best to take it on the safe side. Talk to an attorney, read the law yourself. You don't understand it. Bring it to someone that does. And I'm not saying I'm a lawyer and I don't give legal advice or tax advice. So don't think anything like that. I don't want to be charged with the unauthorized practice of law, because I have enough trouble. Okay. So listen, I really appreciate you guys stepping up. Jordan and Corey, thanks for bringing it up. Jackie, thanks for the questions. Does anybody else have anything else? I got another webinar at 11 o'clock and I got to get ready for it. I got to
Hey,
change my
Rich,
shirt.
I just wanted to remind you that I
Rick,
sent you that.
Rick, you need to wear a hat, babe. I've never seen you without a hat before. And I know there's a reason that you wear a hat, as there is a reason I wear a hat. So go put a hat on and then come back. What do you got?
But I sent you that email regarding all those judgments. I just
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to
I
let-
saw it. Thank you. Yeah, it was just before the meeting.
All
I get a chance to look at it yet, but I promise you I'll take care of it today.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, babe. Put a hat on. Okay, listen, nothing else?
Nothing else. See you at 11, but shout out to Ray. Happy birthday.
Ray, how old are you, Ray?
Too old. No, I'm just kidding.
31.
31. Man, I got socks as old as you, babe. Matter of fact, I think I'm wearing them today. Okay. So in honor of Ray, my 31-year-old socks, any of you guys coming to my short sale webinar, that's great. I'll see you at 11. If not, I'll send you a copy of this call. Everybody stay in touch. I love the fact with Jordan and Jackie getting together and trying to work things out. Corey, again, thanks for your input. All right, man. I'll see everybody at 11 and it's another link and that might be screwed up. So Ray, I'll send you a copy of the link for you to post it before it happens.
Okay. Sounds
All right,
good.
babe. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.